This is CBC Here and Now.
Only would be hundreds of thousands.
A new report says despite being warned, provincial health officials didn't bolster cyber defenses before the ransomware attack in 2021.
For the fiscal year ended March of 2020, there were almost 16% of the minimum number of inspections that weren't completed. That's over 1,000 food premises inspections.
The Auditor General shines the spotlight on food inspections, and it appears the province didn't earn rave reviews.
Temperatures very nice in parts of the province today. Is that going to stick around?
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. The Privacy Commissioner's Office released a scathing report this morning about the 2021 cyber attack on the province's health system. It says the province, 3 health authorities, and the Centre for Health Information broke privacy laws. The report also says officials were warned about security problems more than a year before the attack, but failed to fix them. The CBC's Heather Gillis is live from our newsroom with the details. Heather.
Well, Carolyn, in 115 pages, this report makes 34 findings and has 6 recommendations specifically for the new Provincial Health Authority. Now, the report also says it's likely that attackers stole sensitive information from the vast majority of people in this province, data which should have been better protected.
In a report released today, the Privacy Commissioner's Office says nearly everyone in the province has had their privacy breached in the 2021 cyber attack on the health system. Former and current employees at 3 health authorities, anyone who had a COVID test or special blood work. Sean Murray investigated the attack.
It definitely would be hundreds of thousands.
With 200 gigabytes of data snatched, he calls it one of the worst cyber attacks in the country's history.
This information was taken by criminal cyber attackers.
In late October 2021, the Hive ransomware gang took down the province's healthcare system. It delayed thousands of appointments, sending healthcare workers back into the dark ages using paper without digital access to medical files. He also says the Centre for Health Information warned government the risk and impact from an attack was high more than a year before hackers hamstrung the health system, but they failed to fix it.
In other words, the ransomware attack against our public health information systems was a foreseeable event.
Those involved in the attack.
Something then Health Minister John Haggie dismissed.
And I received a threat assessment which highlighted no red flags. So that was in September of 2020.
The hackers snuck into the system, likely through a phishing email in mid-October, stealing legit credentials to access and siphon data, says the report. Murray says alerts were triggered at the Centre for Health Information before the attack was detected, but says the centre failed to respond and hasn't given him a justified reason why. The province and Centre for Health Information wouldn't confirm the attack was ransomware until March of this year, a 500-day delay. Murray calls that concerning. He says they broke privacy laws by not telling the public at the first reasonable opportunity in November 2021.
The Department of Health and Community Services took a leading role in what information would be disclosed and when, and it did not provide an adequate response to our questions to justify the delay in publicly disclosing certain details about the cyber attack.
Also concerning, he says, it took the province days to confirm data was stolen rather than merely accessed. He says health authorities too broke privacy laws by collecting some patient social insurance numbers which were stolen. Health authorities also didn't have proper records management, holding some former employee data going back to 1993, which should have been deleted, Murray says. He says the risk of misuse of the stolen data remains high, even though the gang behind the heist has been dismantled since January.
There were a number of instances where the Department of Health and Community Services did not answer our questions, and there were instances where the Centre for Health Information also didn't answer our questions. So that was concerning.
Meanwhile, Murray says official investigations into the attack were reasonable, but he recommends a chief privacy officer position in the new Provincial Health Authority. He also says new cybersecurity projects should be properly resourced and implemented in the time planned.
Cybersecurity is and will continue to be an ongoing arms race with organized crime as well as state-sanctioned actors who will not only attempt to extort us and breach our privacy, but also cause us to incur significant costs to the public purse and harm actual health care delivery and other public services and critical infrastructure, potentially putting lives at risk.
The province still hasn't said if it paid ransom to hackers, and Murray won't say if that was the right move or not.
Now, of course, all of this came up at the House of Assembly this afternoon with questions for the Premier about who was notified about the privacy breach and when.
The cyber attack that struck our healthcare system in 2021 affected more people than the Liberal government ever made public. The report says, and I quote, "The vast majority of the population of the province had some amount of personal information or personal health information taken by the cyber attackers. This is the first time that the public have been informed of the true magnitude of this attack." I asked the Premier, why did your government hide the sheer scale of this attack on the healthcare system?
We were very open in our communications. In fact, we said immediately upon recognition that there was a problem. We said we didn't know the scope of the problem, but we said that it was a potential that many Newfoundlanders and Labradorians could have been involved in this. And we were very open with the communication on that, Mr. Speaker, from day one, offering regular public updates, Mr. Speaker.
In the report, Murray says that public trust in the healthcare system has taken a hit since the attack. He says the report has been delivered to government, the Centre for Health Information, and to the new Provincial Health Authority, which has to respond to those recommendations that he made within 2 weeks. Carolyn?
Thanks so much, Heather. That's Here and Now's Heather Gillis reporting. Well, the report not only raises concerns about past security failures, but also the future of cyber attack technology. Later in the show, we'll speak with Jonathan Anderson, a MUN professor who specializes in privacy and computer security, to get his take on the report. Meanwhile, the Provincial Health Department says one more person has died due to COVID-19. The person who died was over the age of 80 and in the eastern region of the province. The latest numbers from the Health Department show 15 new hospitalizations between May 7th and May 20th. 8 of those are in critical care, and that's the most in critical care this year. The Health Department released the numbers by email today. It says a technical issue prevented updating the province's online COVID-19 dashboard. Well, the Auditor General released a report today that looked at the food inspection and licensing program in the province. It also examined the performance of the 2 provincial departments responsible for it, Service NL and the Health Department. Here and Now's Henrika Wilhelm is live in the newsroom to tell us more. So, Henrika, what was the purpose of the report?
Yeah, Carolyn, the audit had 2 goals: to see whether Service NL effectively manages the program and whether the Health Department checks in on that. The answer to both questions is no.
The cyber attack that struck our healthcare system in 2021 affected more people than the Liberal government ever made public. The report says, and I quote, "The vast majority of the population of the province had some amount of personal information or personal health information taken by the cyber attackers. This is the first time that the public have been informed of the true magnitude of this attack." I asked the Premier, why did your government hide the sheer scale of this attack on the healthcare system?
We were very open in our communications. In fact, we said immediately upon recognition that there was a problem. We said we didn't know the scope of the problem, but we said that it was a potential that many new...
Apologies, that was the wrong clip. Yeah, the audit looked at the period from April 2019 through December 2021 and sampled 60 food spots across the province. So that can be anything from a hotel or restaurant to a tour boat or meat packaging. So let's look at a few of the shortcomings the report mentions. On the plus side, the majority of places operated with licenses. But Service NL didn't provide the Health Department with annual reports for 2020 and 2021 until May 2022. It also failed to do the minimum required number of annual inspections, with that situation looking even more dire in remote regions.
For example, for the fiscal year ended March of 2020, there were almost 16% of the minimum number of inspections that weren't completed. That's over 1,000 food premises inspections. And many of them were in the medium or high risk category.
Something the health departments often didn't know because of a lack of communication between the 2 departments. Within 33 months, the report covered, they met only 3 times to discuss this topic. The health department's guidelines are outdated, and the Memorandum of Understanding hasn't been updated since 1999, even though that's supposed to happen every year.
In this particular audit, I guess it's fair to say my concern would relate to that lack of oversight by the Department of Health and Community Services. It wouldn't matter if it was Digital Government and Service&L doing the delivery or if it was someone else. You need that oversight. You need the reporting back. You need to know that the work that you expect to get done is getting done.
The report also criticizes that there's no clear process for people to submit complaints about a food premise. No dedicated phone line or website, which does exist in other provinces. So why does this matter? Because 1 in 8 Canadians have a foodborne illness every year. So it's a...
Now in our audit, we do acknowledge that in our sample, we did find critical and non-critical hazards had been dealt with. But there is lots of room for improvement, and that would include be it from documentation and systems, or simply the public and the ability for people to have information and to be able to tell the departments things in between when inspections are happening.
We contacted government today, which said it needs time to review the report before commenting. The audit contained 5 recommendations, and the 2 departments agreed with all of them. The Auditor General will check back about them in 2 to 3 years and expects to see them fully resolved in 3 years. Henrike Wilhelm reporting live from the newsroom.
It's sunny and crisp here in Bay de Verde, and that's fitting because after weeks of uncertainty, this Conception Bay community has roared back to life. It's the biggest snow crab plant in the world, and it's humming once again. 24 hours of production, nearly 400 workers, more than 100 of them from Thailand. We've been given rare access to this plant, where workers are relieved to be back on the job.
I was wondering how I'm going to live, how I'm going to make any money.
It was very stressful to be home, not working at all. When you have bills to pay, we didn't know what was going to happen to us.
I'm Terry Roberts, and I'll take you inside the Quinlan Brothers operation. That's tomorrow on Here and Now.
Yeah, lots of blue sky out there today across the province. Temperatures were cool, though, to start. We're hovering, around 1 degree in St. John's this morning, but temperatures through central, Badger at -5, Deer Lake at -3, and then even up across Labrador, temperatures relatively mild, 5 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. Now the temperature is a very different story this afternoon. Quite the dramatic jump in temperatures. In fact, Deer Lake at 21 degrees. That was the first official station to reach 20 degrees this year. And then not far behind that, Badger at 20 degrees as well. Still waiting in Gander, sitting at 19 this afternoon. And Bonavista was sitting at about 12 degrees. So temperatures finally reaching 10 in St. John's this afternoon, but a very different story depending on where you were. If you're closer to the ocean, definitely cooler out there today, but temperatures much warmer than they were yesterday across the island. For the most part, 10 degrees, in fact, warmer in Twillingate. And then a different story up across Labrador, much cooler in McCoverick. Now we're looking at the potential for some showers and flurries as we head through the overnight as a bit of a trough moves through. Fog monsters showing up along the south coast, same thing for eastern areas of the island. Temperatures are going to be a little bit of a roller coaster over the next couple of days. We'll talk about that when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. One access to information request has shown the province's English school district spent nearly $700,000 defending itself in the Carter Churchill case. Now, Carter has cerebral palsy and is deaf and nonverbal. He communicates through American Sign Language. Now, his parents filed a human rights complaint in 2017, which found Carter was discriminated against while at Beachy Cove Elementary because he didn't have sufficient access to ASL instruction. Now, his father and politicians are speaking out about the money the school board spent on fighting the case.
to spend all the energy. That's $700,000 of direct payment, but all the other energy in the school district. I had meetings with the school district. I had meetings with a number of other officials. We pushed on certain things there. I met with the Churchills a number of times in their home. I mean, that's a lot of energy that could have been better used in providing services for inclusive education instead of fighting and trying to demoralize a family who wanted to ensure that their child was included in the education system.
And apologies for some of our technical problems this evening. Well, moving on, Corner Brook is doing something a little different this year for its second annual Jigs and Wheels Festival, set to take place in the Bay of Islands and Humber Valley this summer. A small crowd gathered outside City Hall to learn more about Jigs and Wheels. The festival runs for 2 weeks, starting the end of July, with a big focus on full ATV access to all roads within the city limits. The festival will also have live music, car shows, autocross, tea parties, and bingo. This year, the festival features big events outside Corner Brook in regions like Massey Drive, Steadybrook, and Lark Harbour.
Motorcycle rides, dirt bike rides, car races, like I said, hiking, healthy lifestyle events. We're trying our best to collaborate with the other municipalities to ensure that we have a product that's, like I said, enticing or attractive to not only visitors, but people that are away that want to come home and want to have a jam-packed couple weeks with their family, showcasing where they're from.
Well, the cat population at the Green Bay landfill in Southbrook had been getting out of control, with more than 100 cats calling the dump home. But a group of volunteers is helping feral cats find homes that are fit to live in. Hope Roberts has been rescuing cats at the Green Bay Kitty Rescue for 3 years and spoke with CBC Radio's Newfoundland Morning.
First, when I visited there, I mean, it would be probably a day that I went to the dump to bring up a load of garbage or something, and the place would be crawling. Like, everywhere you look, there would be cats or kittens, or cats trying to scrounge for food, or like cats with probably frosted ears from injuries in the past or whatever. So it was a pretty sad sight, really, seeing cats everywhere like that. Something had to be done, and no one really knew what to do. So it was heartbreaking, and we just started feeding the cats at first, and then we slowly brought in feeding stations. Then we brought in insulated houses for the cats. So, and then we started trapping the cats. So it was like a process of feeding, making sure they were warm, making sure they had a place to eat their food in a warm, safe spot. The situation is really good right now. We have 7 cats remaining there. We call them dumplings, the name that kind of stuck over the past year. And we have 1 left there to get neutered. So that's a big relief. I mean, we started with so many cats, we didn't know what to do. And now we're down to 7.
Well, temperatures over the next couple of days are going to cool down and then warm right back up. We'll talk all about that in a few minutes.
Big news in the entertainment world. Legendary singer Tina Turner has died at the age of 83. With hits like What's Love Got to Do With It and Private Dancer and a dozen other top 40 hits in the 1980s, she's often called the Queen of Rock and Roll. A little later on Here and Now, we dip into the archives to look back on when Turner wowed audiences in this province back in 1985.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. The absolute final deadline is midnight Friday, June 2nd. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Well, it's a little chilly in St. John's, but it's like full-on summer, it seems, in other parts of the province.
Yeah, it certainly was, especially today. Earlier today, if you were in the shade at all, it certainly was a bit chilly out there. But yeah, 21 degrees in Deer Lake today.
Wow.
Lots of summer warmth out there for sure. Let's take a look at what was going on across the province. So even temperatures in Twillingate, 18 degrees today, 19 in Gander, Terra Nova, same thing. Along the south coast of the island, though, a little cooler, 8-9 degrees. And then Labrador, some nice heat through Cartwright at 14 degrees today. Makovic topping out so far at about 6 degrees. But lots of areas, official and unofficial, seeing those temperatures into the 20s. Mainly through central and through other parts of the province, you know, reaching the 19, almost 20 degree mark in some cases. Grand Falls, Windsor so far, anyway, has topped out at about 19.2. Thanks to Rodney Barney for putting these numbers together. And this was as of 5:30 this evening. Millertown reached 18.2. So we do have lots of nice weather in place. Ridge of high pressure keeping that air or keeping the sunshine, I should say, but we do have a bit of a trough moving through. Showers in behind that, as you can see upstream, thanks to the radar. But those showers are working their way through central Labrador and then towards the coast. And as we head through the night tonight, we are going to see that change over to some snow through the overnight. But you can see some of the fog creeping in southerly flow along the south coast of the island, and then same thing for the east. And you can see that fog bank out there just waiting to come in as those temperatures drop as we head through the night tonight. Temperatures currently sitting at 10 degrees. This is actually the warmest it's been all day, so it took a little bit of time to get there, but we did reach it. And the winds are generally light, so out of the southeast around 11 kilometers per hour. Now, taking a look at the fog forecast as we head through the night tonight, that fog is going to creep along the south coast right through to the overnight, and we're going to see that across the Avalon as well, it looks like. And then same thing for coastal areas of Labrador as we get into the early morning hours on Thursday. And then as we continue through the day, that fog should end through the afternoon. Current temperatures for the rest of the province, still a beautiful evening out there in Deer Lake, 20 degrees right now. And there you can see that temperature dropping. Makovic down to 0. So if you're not already seeing the transition through to snow, you will over the next couple of hours, and it's as that front moves through. So showers or flurries, the story for southeastern Labrador. Otherwise, not a whole lot to talk about, just those fog patches along the south coast of the island, moving towards the northern peninsula as we get into the early morning hours. But most of us should stay dry. Now, temperatures are going to hover around 0, maybe a degree above or a degree below. Certainly in those low-lying areas, you will see temperatures a little cooler than that, but the winds will generally be light, and that will allow those temperatures to drop. Might see a few showers for the southwest. Otherwise, between around 0 to about -4 or -5 across the big land through the night tonight. Now, for tomorrow, clouds will be on the increase as the day goes on. Then we're going to start to see that chance of showers develop along the south coast of the island, and those will spread north as the day goes on, and then in fact get quite heavy into the afternoon and evening, into the evening and overnight hours for parts of the Avalon. We could be talking about 10 to as much as 20, even 30 millimeters of rain for the Avalon by the time we get into Friday morning. Temperatures tomorrow should be a couple of degrees warmer for the Avalon. Those winds will be out of the southeast. So if you are in onshore flow, temperatures will be significantly cooler than that. Through central, a little cooler tomorrow, 16, 17 degrees. And then between 13 and 15 for the west coast as we see your winds out of the east around 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Once we get rid of those showers through the afternoon, the sun should come out for coastal areas. A nice day for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, hovering around 12 and reaching the double digits yet again for Lab City. We'll talk about the long range when I come back.
Well, as we heard earlier, the Information and Privacy Commissioner has found that despite warnings, the province failed to adequately protect sensitive patient health and employee information prior to the 2021 cyber attack. Joining me now to talk more about the findings in this report is MUN Associate Professor Jonathan Anderson, who specializes in computer security and privacy. Thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be here.
So the report says government knew about these security issues. They were warned an attack was inevitable, but didn't do anything to fix the problems. What did you make of that?
Yeah, so I think everybody will take cybersecurity seriously. It's just a question of whether you do it before or after a serious incident. And yeah, skimming through the report today, I mean, there were a lot of indications, including from the regional health authorities and from NILCHI, to say there are red flags here and there are real problems coming down the pipe, but apparently the centre had a deficit in their budget, which made problems for them being able to address some of these things. They had reports in advance saying, here are a bunch of vulnerabilities, here are problems that need to be addressed, and people kind of started on those, but through, I mean, at one point in the report, I think the commissioner mentions they had 3 IT security staff for the whole province, and that would make it very difficult to move forward on some of these really big, complex projects that needed to be done.
Yeah, and how unusual is it for an organization, like in general, to know about those kinds of vulnerabilities and not do anything about it?
Unfortunately, it's pretty common for people to be aware that they have problems and to even say that they're going to do something about it, maybe even have a plan to address some of the problems, but amongst a lot of resource constraints, for it not to be at the high priority that you might expect. And of course, for a health authority, there are a lot of priorities that need to be addressed, but protecting people's information has to be an important one.
Communication was a big part of this, like communicating with the public. The report talked about the public not being informed early enough, and they should have been given more details about the nature of the attack, and it's taking this independent report really to find out more details about all of this. Do you think government should have been more forthcoming from the start?
Yeah, so when you look at some other examples of other ransomware attacks that have occurred in other places, I mean, the Toronto Sick Kids Hospital, they kind of told people what was going on in 4 days when they had one of these reports. And so I think, yeah, for the commissioner to find that it took over 500 days to release just the fact that it was ransomware, even though in very early days, early weeks, everybody was talking about, is it ransomware? Maybe it is. We're hearing reporting that it is. Just not to be able to say that is a little bit surprising. The other thing I find really interesting, though, is that some of the technical details are still actually not being released. So in those very early days, you don't want to talk about the vulnerabilities that you may still have, but after weeks or after months, when some efforts are being taken to fix these vulnerabilities, to patch systems, to bring them up to date, it's a little bit surprising that some of those details are still not things that, that even a thorough investigation like this can reveal.
Are there good reasons for not being as forthcoming with the public on certain pieces of information when something like this happens?
Right away at the beginning, absolutely. Like, you don't want to discuss the vulnerabilities that an attacker used if those vulnerabilities are still in place and say, hey, the back door is open. If you turn the knob this way, you can get in. You definitely don't want to talk about those things. But as days turn into weeks and turn into months, and now here we are at 1.5 years later, I would expect that these vulnerabilities would be fixed and would be patched and they wouldn't be a concern anymore. Some of the other things that might be at play is if there's criminal investigations or if security agencies are looking at particular ransomware gangs, there can be reason not to disclose some things right up front. But as time goes on, the further you get from the event, the less sensitive these matters ought to be.
What about disclosing whether or not the government actually paid a ransom in this attack?
Yeah, that's something that I think the report from the commissioner didn't make a recommendation either way on that, but kind of noted that it was something that some people choose to disclose and some organizations don't. Certainly, I mean, this is a public organization, and I think unless there's a particularly good reason to say why they did or did not, I think it would be something that we would kind of like to know as the people of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yeah, absolutely. Who do you think should take responsibility for this, or should someone take responsibility for this? Because it doesn't seem like there were any consequences among any government officials or within Eastern Health.
Yeah, so certainly it was a very complex situation, and there were some of the issues that had existed around things like accountability. It sounds like some of those things are actually being improved with the new system. So I note that the Commissioner pointed out that there were some entities that had responsibility for protecting patient data, but they didn't have the authorities they needed to make the decisions to do that protection. And that's apparently going to improve with the new Provincial Health Authority. When it comes to things, I mean, personally, I'm more interested in the technical side of things, and when it comes to the political layer of who should take what responsibility, that's not really my expertise.
Understandable.
But when it comes to the technology, definitely the people who are tasked with protecting data need to have the authority that is required, and they need the resources that are necessary in order to fulfill that mandate. It's no good to say you're responsible.
Coming up, we'll show you how one family from Ukraine is finding peace in their new home in Newfoundland and Labrador. A short documentary coming up after the break. Well, as the war in Ukraine ramps up, people in that country continue to escape the violence. More than 2,800 Ukrainians have moved to Newfoundland and Labrador. Art Force NL, CBC, and Walsh Productions have produced a short documentary about one family's ongoing journey to find peace in St. John's. Here is Rest Assured.
It was my dream from my childhood to see the ocean. When I look through the deep color, I feel that you are free. There is like a future. You can dream. It's my place of calming, leave my thoughts behind because it was a lot of stress last year. When the war began, there were 3 missiles in our native town. We were living like in a horror movie. He was like, it's not possible. It will end like today, tomorrow.
It's crazy. I can't believe it was a stressful day.
We left our home in the morning of the war started.
I was not allowed to leave Ukraine because I am a man. I stayed in Ukraine till June. It was hard time for them because they were without me in Europe, and for me also.
It was really hard because we have small children. We are from a western part of Ukraine, Ivano-Frankivsk.
Picnics with kids, rivers. It was good, calm life.
We had beautiful life.
I saw in one day a huge missile about my job, so I decided not to play this lottery. We must be together and doesn't matter where. First thought it was Canada.
I wanted them to live in a safe place and not to feel any of this pain. So yes, we come back to Ukraine. We stayed there for 2 weeks and it was really horrible, sirens all the time, and we were going to the shelter. This is how our road to Canada started. We do all the application, fingerprints, and we were waiting for our visas in Czech Republic. My daughter has a celiac disease. So only with these documents what show that she is a celiac, this is the only chance for him to cross the border.
We were looking for a host in Canada. We found Brianna, a very sweet, kind and open-minded person.
Look. Oh my.
We saw her mom, and when we hugged her first time, we felt them like our family. It was really incredible.
Nice.
Yeah.
Today is a big day.
Here in Newfoundland there is most kindest people, beautiful nature and also beautiful island. Tomorrow I will leave my family for 2 weeks, so I need to pack my bags. I'm working at Voisey's Bay, mine as a water treatment facility, and it's a rotational job, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on the site. Current position is temporary, so I'm going to find some permanent, start immigration. I want to be a Canadian citizen. We started here a new life and I want to succeed here.
We really want not to live in the basement, One day they bring a painting like a huge house and I was like, oh, it's a castle. And they're like, no, we just want separate rooms. Our children are Demian and Ksenia. Today we are celebrating our kid's 6th birthday, a week before, because my husband is leaving tomorrow.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Too much.
Oh. Thank
you. We need to say thank you to Erica, yes?
That's what it was.
In Ukraine, I was a lawyer, but here it's a really hard situation to find work in my field, and I really want to help people who are in the same situation as we are. ANC is hosting people and giving us the free hotels as long as you will find your apartment. They helped a lot with all of the documents. SIN number, we made our driver licenses and MCP cards. They even wanted to review the lease, so they helped a lot.
It reminds you that you are not alone. We remain in that Ukrainian context, in the context of war, so we know the news, we follow it closely, and we feel that pain very deeply. And at the same time, you come here and you need to real life. Like you need to take care of yourself, of your kids, and you need to make money to survive.
It looks like in our darkest times, we found the most lightest people in our life, because Brianna is like a sister I never had, and Trish, you know, she's like a mom. They give us so much hope.
I think it's in our nature as Newfoundlanders to be welcoming, and I had seen this Facebook page and just wanted to reach out.
I drove in with my mother and she said, like, Brianna, if you don't see them any day after today, like, you still did a good thing, like, you helped them get here.
She's just really easy to fall in love with, and she just became a friend really our first meeting.
Like, it really is like the best thing that ever happened to me, is meeting her. Yeah.
All the news, all our decisions, all our steps were not so easy. We need to move forward, so we have a lot of fears inside, and we have only 3 years to start the migration process. As we are parents of tiny children, it's a lot of responsibility. It looks like the best place for us right now, and it's a peaceful place, yeah.
It's a beautiful, heartwarming story. That was the documentary Rest Ashore.
The quiet is like very sort of meditating. The stopping is really very good for me.
She's simply the best. Just ahead, we're remembering the late rock legend Tina Turner with a look back at her incredible 4-show stop in St. John's. Well, as we mentioned earlier in the show, singer Tina Turner has died at 83. Now, back in 1985, she launched a North American tour in St. John's, starting with rehearsals before the tour of more than 100 cities began. Here's a report from Marie Wadden from back then.
I have a view from my window. It looks like the neck going out to the sea. That is very soothing, just to wake up in the morning to have my coffee too, and then it feels like a town where you could just get out and walk if you want, you know.
Tina Turner is spending a week in St. John's to start her North American tour, and she likes it here.
And the quiet is like very sort of meditating state of feel of it. The stopping is really very good for me.
And St. John's is happy to have Tina Turner here. Because of its isolation and small population, Newfoundland is often overlooked by touring stars like her who go to other major Canadian cities as a matter of course. But now, being out of the mainstream might just be an advantage. Donald K. Donald is the Canadian promoter of the Turner Tour. He suggested St. John's as a place to prepare for the North American shows.
It's away from New York, it's away from the media hype, it's away from the big blitz and it keeps them out of the way and on the go.
We needed a quiet place. The musicians can get sort of sidetracked.
It was good to get out of LA.
It was good to get out of LA or out of New York. We needed a quiet place.
And what could be more innocent than a ball game for the roadies and musicians on Turner's tour? They've been cooling their heels in St. John's between rehearsals, thrilling locals with sightings of them at city bars and restaurants.
The musicians really love it here. And we plan to sort of hit a few of the little night spots before we go. Out of the ruins, out from the wreckage.
But mainly it's been hard work for Turner and her 52-member entourage. As seen in this dress rehearsal last night, it's a high-energy show, and Turner will be doing this in over 100 cities before Christmas. She needs to relax, and what better place than St. John's?
We are the ones. Perfect for a wild person like me, because traveling and always being wild, this town will just tame you for like a good week.
Marie Wadden, CBC News, St. John.
Well, staying with entertainment news, award-winning Canadian actor Michael J. Fox sat down with CBC's Harry Forrestal, who also has Parkinson's disease, to talk about his new documentary, Still, and living with the disease. Here's some of that conversation.
One of the things the doctor said to me too early on was that I had 10 years left to work. And he said, well, the good thing is you have 10 years left to work. I was 29 years old, and a lot of expensive real estate.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So that I needed to take care of, and kids going to school, and so I started to work, and well, I worked a lot, and one of the things that I came to over time was that I didn't need to do that, and that I wanted to be with my family, and I needed to look at things that I wasn't gonna let. The big thing I learned, I was gonna let Parkinson's drive the bus. You know, I can't run the bus now. I wasn't gonna let Parkinson's drive the bus.
Well, Fox's new documentary looks back on his storied career and shines a light on his public and private battle with Parkinson's. Well, an education program in New Brunswick is helping prepare Indigenous students for work related to protecting the environment. It includes a strong Indigenous perspective that participants are very proud of.
Yeah, look at that, that's sweet.
Oh, wow.
Check this out, see where those gulls are? See those little black heads?
Yeah, I see those.
There's a nest there. A couple mallards bedded right down. Probably got their young down in there now.
The program's a couple of decades old now, and it's had a lot of success. It's a national program, so it's been offered in many communities across the country. I've been doing essentially 5 units on marine environmental conservation. Today's their 3rd field trip, and it follows up on 2 other coastal surveys that we did. All of the skills that we're doing today are about observation of species, observation of habitats, and measuring populations and their abundance or their scarcity. We're trying to use the 2-eyed seeing approach, so bringing Western science and traditional science together, and that's been great. The students have a lot of first-hand knowledge.
Okay, here's the different kinds we're looking for.
Okay, we're expecting the herring gull.
Yep.
Okay, well, so we'll have a look and we'll check it out.
It's about utilizing Western science approach and at the same time using an Indigenous lens to just for the betterment of everything. They're just different ways of seeing things. You're less apt to miss anything if you have two perspectives. I just want to expand any skills or get any training. I just want to absorb like a sponge as much as I can.
Okay.
Really being mindful of the natural world, I think, is what he drew my attention most to. I think it's important to showcase youth that there's other career paths that they could take, reconnecting them to their land, building the capacity for our communities to have those kind of leaders in these industries. It teaches you things. Nature teaches you things if you just would like observe it.
Most of us don't think about, don't think about their habitat or what they eat or what their interactions are with other species and stuff, right? Never thought about the different type of gulls and stuff before. I just, oh look, there's a ghost seagull. When you get to look at them through binoculars or eating or doing something, right?
We can all read a book and such and so forth, but till you hit the ground and you do that work, that's some of the best way to learn. Yeah, well, from an ecological standpoint, we have to know what's there. We have the trees, we have the flora and the fauna. Till we find out what's there, then we have to know what we're protecting. Whether that be frogs, lizards, salamanders, fish, birds, everything. If we don't know what's there, then what are we protecting? Just besides the trees.
Well, as we head through to the beginning of the weekend, temperatures are going to be a tad cooler for most of the island, in fact, except the west coast, where you're still going to hang on to some of that milder air. And you can see that mild air up across Labrador as well, between 10 to 16 degrees across the big land. But it's going to be a windy one. It's also going to be a rainy day on Friday, and we're also going to see the winds picking up, especially as we head into the evening hours. Note that they're onshore winds, which is why we're seeing those cooler temperatures. Now, as we head into Saturday, windy conditions even more so, but we're going to get back into a southerly flow. But that doesn't mean temperatures are going to stay warm. In fact, they're going to stay somewhere between 6 and 9 degrees. Teens just barely on the west coast, but again, showers expected. And then Labrador towards the coast, you're looking at your temperatures dipping, and they'll be down to the single digits. Now, the long range forecast looking like they are going to sit temperatures anyway back up into the teens by the time we get into Sunday, but then drop again as we go into Monday, as those temperatures hover around the 8-degree mark. And then for central Labrador, or central Newfoundland rather, 18 degrees by Sunday. So a nice end to the weekend after a windy Saturday. And then Monday, some showers will return and our temperatures will be sitting around 10 degrees. A little cooler than that for western Newfoundland as you hover around 9, and overnight lows hovering around the 0-degree mark. Eastern Labrador, you're going to see a bit of a roller coaster, but temperatures up in the double digits right through to Monday. Some showers expected for you on Sunday. And then for Western Labrador, those showers will move in for Monday with your temperature hovering around 14 and your overnight low not moving much, only sitting around 12 degrees. Another beautiful sunset photo to share with you before we leave you tonight. Black Harbor is where this photo was taken, and Linda shared that great shot with us. If you have any beautiful photos, send them to my Facebook page, Twitter, but the best place is to email them at nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, look at how still that water is. Beautiful reflection.
Twillingate, that area of Twillingate is the best place to watch the sunset, in my opinion.
Just gorgeous. Well, that's it for us on this Wednesday evening. A few gremlins in the show tonight, but thank you for sticking with us and hope to see you again tomorrow.
Good night.